Hey everyone, welcome to Jackalope Tales, the Tiny Tales version.
Yes.
We're gonna just spend a few minutes just throwing around some shit.
This is where we talk about stuff that might or might not have to do anything with music, but it's not a full episode. It's a tiny episode.
Yeah, tiny, but informative.
Very informative. So we were asked a question.
Yes.
What's a band that everyone loves that you hate?
And which ones we hate. Yep. All right. So, I don't know. If I had to go first, I cannot stand Bruce Springsteen.
You know,
I'm with you on that one.
Yes.
Yep, same.
Hey.
I don't like him.
Yep.
I wish I did.
I
Everyone
tried.
says his concerts are religious, and I
Right.
want to understand, but I don't.
I mean, I can appreciate the guy doing like a 3.5 hour show at his age now, but that would be 3.5 hours of me suffering if I were at one of his shows.
I would go freaking nuts.
I've tried. I mean, I'll listen every now and then it's like, nope, I can't do it.
He does
Can't
a lot
do
of
it.
jamming too, and I don't like bands that jam,
Oh.
like Fish and
Yeah.
Grateful Dead.
Oh
or
my
anyone
God,
that
you're
does,
naming all bands I don't like.
anyone that does jams. And
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen does a lot of jamming things.
Oh.
So he's got his radio songs that are 3-minute songs, but when you go see him live,
Yep.
they're like 20-minute long, and there's a saxophone, and I'm gonna
God.
vomit.
Yes. No. I listen. I know. I tried, and it's like, and I mean, we were even working in Sound Warehouse in Fort Worth when Born in the USA came out.
Yep.
And it was like everyone was into that album, and I'm like, God, that sucks.
Yeah, I hated it.
Yeah.
Hated it. I mean, I like it when Elmer Fudd sings that version of when Robin Williams does Elmer Fudd sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
No.
hey, this might be a jackalope tale, but I heard a rumor that Peter Gabriel saw a Bruce Springsteen show and that he was so moved that was the genesis of Salisbury Hill.
No. That ruined Salisbury Hill.
I know, because
for you.
I love that song.
So do I.
No, no,
Oh.
that's not true.
It's not. No, it's a jackalope
It's
tale.
a jackalope tale.
Yeah, that is not true.
Now, if I had to say another band that I abhor, U2. I just no.
Hey, that's another one for me. We're like kindred spirits.
It's just like
I got to meet them once, and Bono really is, I'm short. He's about my height.
really.
Yeah.
Midget wrestler? So that's the question I want to know. Short enough to be midget wrestler or no?
Maybe a little tall for that.
Okay.
Yeah, he must have been
Sorry.
wearing heels.
U2's one of those bands, give or I can take or leave. I love their early stuff like Boy.
Yeah.
In October. Fucking
October's
brilliant.
so
I'll
good.
agree with you on those because those were the ones that kind of.
But when they got more preachy,
Oh, yeah, the album War. I've never been able to enjoy that one.
I actually still liked War. They
Yeah?
still had me, but after that, so I went to go see Rattle and Hum at the theater, and I left.
No.
When that came out.
Yeah.
And, I'm just
Yeah.
like Desire and all that stuff. Just and I listened to Bono's book on tape.
Yeah.
Because he wrote an autobiography.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really interesting hearing how the band started. But he is really preachy.
Oh.
And I don't like that. Don't preach at me, dude.
And see, nowadays, I put them in one of those bands that just needs to stop because it's just like you're not getting anywhere.
Yep.
It's time to hang up the musical instruments and call it a day.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, it's, like I said, it's one of those bands that's just like, meh.
yeah.
I like the people, though. I really do like the guys
yeah.
in the band.
Well, that's cool.
So
I
it's
mean,
one of those bands. It's like I can't hate them when they're so freaking nice.
yeah. I get it where you can't quite be too mean to them,
Yeah.
but you still haven't swayed me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
No,
go
no,
home
no.
and listen to it.
Yeah. Don't.
Now, how about you?
Well,
You
I
got
mean,
one.
it's well known that I loathe the Beatles.
I know that is very interesting.
Yeah,
And
I'm
has that
just-
been your whole life?
Yeah, since I was a little kid.
Was your dad even into the Beatles?
Oh yeah, he had all of their albums,
Yeah.
and I hated them. He never played them around me. Seriously, because I hated it so much, and
Wow.
I would yell and scream and just bitch.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it that you hate so much?
Hey Jude.
Yeah.
I don't. So to me, I'll have a confession here. I love pop music. I mean, I love pop music for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a little kid, I felt like the Beatles were killing pop music because the stuff I wanted to hear was Motown
Oh.
and all of that. And I was like, who are these grooveless, wimpy white dudes?
Yeah.
When I want to hear some soul, man.
Yeah.
And so I felt like they were killing radio, even at a very young age of 5 or whatever, when they were on the
Wow.
radio. I was just like, what is this shit?
You're the most opinionated 5-year-old ever.
I hated it. and it just made me mad. And, I would, on family trips, we had a Beatles cassette.
Yeah.
Because I remember we got a cassette player for cross-country trips.
Uh-huh.
And anytime I was asleep, they would put that in. And if I woke up and it was still on, I was like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
And make my dad put in, the Stevie Wonder or
Yeah.
Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
Freaking love
Yeah.
Janis Joplin, that kind of stuff.
Oh.
But I could not handle the Beatles.
Oh, wow.
But I felt like they were killing pop music.
Now, I know that when we were working together, we were both heavily into alternative.
Yep.
Do you remember, and when I say alternative, I mean the real alternative.
Yep.
Of like the 80s and things like that.
Yes.
Do you remember which band you really sucked you into that style of music? Because I remember.
God, so I listened to George Gamark, who was a
my
local
God,
radio guy
yes,
here.
Yes.
And so I was heavily swayed by whatever he played. But I remember an album that he put on, and there were so many, like Killing Joke.
Yeah.
And, when I first heard the Sex Pistols, I remember when I first heard the Sex Pistols.
Yes. Yeah.
But there was one album that totally changed my life, and it was the Cocteau Twins' Treasure.
Yeah.
Because it sounded so freaking different than everything else I was listening
Yeah.
to.
And I remember you wearing a Cocteau Twins shirt back in the old days,
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
And I remember I could not find that album anywhere.
Yeah.
It was only import.
Uh-huh.
And I went into Sound Warehouse, and this is before I worked there.
Yeah.
And I found an album, and it was like $30. And this was in the 80s.
Yes.
And I was like, God,
The
that's
damn
all
price
my
of import.
money.
Those imports. Yeah.
And I remember saving up to $30 to get that stupid record.
Oh, man. But you loved every penny that you spent.
I still listen to that record.
Wow. See, I listened to George Gamark, too. And
Yeah.
I would actually sit there with a pen.
Same.
And write down everything he mentioned. And then next time I was living in Fort Worth, heading to Dallas, go to VVV Records or
Yep.
Bill's, and then just try to find all the stuff that I had liked. Because, there was so much I learned from that. VVV Records, that was, back then, that was where you always went for import records. They always carried the stuff that the chains didn't.
So it's just a local record shop,
Yeah.
man, that had stuff that the chains didn't have.
Yep. It was, you couldn't, the stuff they had in there. And that was back when you would buy things based on the record label.
Right.
Because you didn't get the opportunity to hear stuff. So if I saw that the label was SST,
Yep.
Alternative Tentacles, Touch and Go,
Yep.
I'd be like, shit, I'm getting it.
I
Yeah,
remember I got, I did not know about the Revolting Cocks. And I'm a huge Ministry fan. I was
Yeah.
always a huge Ministry fan. And I went in there and they were playing the Revolting Cocks, and it was just a 12-inch.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? And he was like, Al Jorgensen's new thing. And I was like, fuck yeah. And I picked up the Revolting Cocks 12-inch.
Oh, man. Because
VVV, man.
oh, I know. That's where I ended up getting so much stuff. And it was like, oh, hell yes.
Can I rewind just a bit and have another shout out for George Gamark's Rock and Roll Alternative?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I still have some of the cassettes
No
that I used
way.
to record
Oh,
at night. But
It-
yeah,
it was a ritual. I think it came on at 11 p.m.
Yeah, it came on late at night. And again, I think all of us that are really big music lovers,
oh man.
we recorded it and we
yeah.
sat with pen and paper. Man,
Yeah.
it was like going to school.
Yeah.
And Killing Joke's 80s, what was it?
80s.
Yeah,
We're living
that
in
was
the
I think the first song that really turned me on to punk because I saw the video on MTV.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even remember seeing the video.
Oh, it was pretty hardcore because Jordy, the guitar player, was wearing a preacher collar.
Yes.
And he had whip marks on his back. And Jazz
80s.
Coleman up on a pulpit.
By Killing Joke.
Oh, that was amazing. And in fact, a band that heavily influenced my guitar playing, Jesus and Mary Chain.
Definitely.
That was where I first heard their single, Never Understand,
Yes.
from the Just Like Honey album.
Yep.
George Gamark played it. And I ended up having like 3 12-inch singles before their album had even come out. And it was like, oh.
Yep.
Didn't they do that cover of Sid Barrett's Vegetable Man on the Upside
yes.
Down
Yes.
single?
Yes, they
Oh my
did.
God. Sorry, I'm aging myself here.
No, this is
I will shut
so.
the fuck
Yeah,
up.
if it wasn't for George Gamark, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have known anything. But
Huge shout out.
yeah, and I did get a magazine from England. I got that magazine, Trouser Press.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would get that and George Gamark, and those are the whole things that grew me as
Yeah.
a music lover. You know what? Trouser Press, I think, was stateside,
Yeah.
but they covered all of England, man. I wanted to go to England so bad when I was a kid.
Right.
And I wanted to see, the Vivian Westwood and all of that whole action.
Oh,
and Kings Row.
yeah. Well, and there was so much fun to seeing albums. Sometimes I'd buy them just based on the cover.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like Butthole Surfers' Psychic Powerless, Another Man's Sack. I had no idea what that sounded like, but I saw it was on Touch and Go and picked it up, and it was like there early on. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then the more I listened to it, it was like it just
Right.
grabbed me.
I miss
So-
the mystery
Yes,
of music, of discovering and
exactly.
not knowing
Oh,
what you're
yeah.
going to get when you buy the record because you couldn't listen to the whole thing before you bought it.
Now, did you ever look for etchings in the middle of or in the center of the record where someone would write something?
Yes.
And it would be like, oh, God, this
Yes.
is so insightful.
Yeah.
Oh, the memories.
Ah.
Oh,
So many
well.
good things. We're so old.
The tiny tail's becoming a medium tail.
That's the end of this tiny tale.
Yep. Thank you so much for listening to us.
We appreciate it. And please tune in next week for a full episode of Jackalope Tales.
Yep. Listen, download, rate,
Subscribe. Do all the things on social media that make us love you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we want to love people,
We do. That's all we want to do.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
except Bruce Springsteen.
Right.
We're not
Never.
here to love him.
Never.
And the Beatles. Yeah. Sam said never. All right. Bye, y'all.